This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
The defending champs in both the NBA and NHL are down 0-2 in their respective series, and apparently no 20-point lead is safe as we welcome you into Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network. Well, maybe if you're OKC.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, here's the thing. I think pretty much everything we've seen through this series is actually, like, for Boston, it's probably going to be just keep pedal to the metal, right? Like, you got to keep doing what you're doing here. I actually think the process is working. I know a lot of people might look at that and go, like, what are you talking about? That's absolutely ridiculous. They're getting screwed in this series because of the way that they're playing, but I don't necessarily think that's the case. I mean, they're shooting 25% on wide-open three-point attempts. The Celtics are shooting 50% on wide-open three-point attempts. That's really, I think, something that is ultimately, like, you just kind of keep your... Just watch the game yesterday. One of the key moments where Jason Tatum's wide open in the right corner, he just bricks an open three. What's he supposed to do there? He's wide open, and I thought you saw a lot of that. And so I think while it might be shocking, I even texted you guys yesterday. I was like, not only is this going to be a tied series, I was like, they're winning each game by 17 out there in New York. They have not been a team in their history, at least in this iteration, that have been very good when you talk about winning games at home. I think only the Miami Heat have more playoff losses at home over the course of however many set years it is than the Boston Celtics. They've been a team that has dominated on the road. They've been one of the best postseason road teams we have seen in a really long time. They are a team that can get very hot, and I think that you just kind of continue to buckle down and do what you're supposed to do. The other part we should notice or mention here, too, is one of their key pieces in Kristaps Porzingis is still dealing with this mystery illness.
I was going to say, do they know what it is? Because he didn't start, he plays, right, but it seems like they still don't know really what's going on there and what that's going to look like on the court.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of scary, right? Yeah. I mean, like, I feel like we keep treating this as like, yeah, it's just like some mystery illness. Like, it's been there for like 4 months. I don't know what's happening. But he's lacking energy. He's not the same player. So I think that's going to be something where at the end of the series, maybe they figure this out at the end of the year. But I think the Celtics just got to maintain what they're doing. They can extend the series out.
So they were obviously $9 favorites to win the series from the start. They are still favored to win it on DraftKings, -120. Knicks even money. The highest I've seen on the Knicks, though, is that flip of favorites at -115 at ESPN Bet. Yet Boston is still favored anywhere you look for the Eastern Conference. Even ESPN Bet to win the East, +140 to +160 range. Should they be? So here are those numbers now. Yep. Celtics +140, Knicks +330, Cavs +360, Pacers +380. Is there a potential bet to be made outside of Boston, who is favored in this market?
Yeah, Boston.
Yeah.
No, look, I think at this point right now, when you're talking about like the entirety of the conference, I've always said, futures-wise, you really miss your boat for the most part when you're already in the midst of a postseason. You know, like there's not really that much value. You're always at a point right now where it's better off for you if you're going to start to just do these rollovers that we always talk about when it comes to some of the parlays and whatnot. So I think that's probably the way that you're still approaching this thing. I mean, at the end of the day, 2-0 series holes aren't that hard to dig yourself out of in the context of forcing a Game 7, but it is a hole that you have to dig yourself out of, and I understand that concept. And you're also still talking about a Knicks team that is going to be underdogs, if for the rest of this series with these games as long as they're being played.
We'll see if the stars can finally start to come alive, especially late in these games. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown really struggling in that area. Meanwhile, Mikal Bridges, all of a sudden, that's when he comes alive.
I was thinking about that yesterday where I'm watching that game, and if I were to tell you, like, Brunson wasn't going to score his 10th point until the fourth quarter, and Bridges wasn't going to get there until the fourth quarter as well, you're thinking, like, oh, this team's going to blow them out. And it looked like they were again. And then ultimately, they do get really tight. And that is part of it, but it is pretty incredible to watch.
Boston, the first team since 1999 to blow a 20-point lead in consecutive playoff games. How about this, by the way, also? Paul Pierce said he'd walk 15 minutes to work barefoot in a robe if the Celtics lost game 2. Said, put the house on Boston.
Do you see he's actually walking?
Will that happen? Did he?
So, okay.
Did they show video?
He has updated. He's going live on Instagram every few minutes or whatever it is. He is showing himself walking. Now, it is 20 miles or something like that.
He's going to get picked up at some point.
Or he's just like driving from spot to spot and like, I'm walking. Who knows? At least he's putting in the effort to kind of show that maybe that's going to be the case.
That's so good. Meanwhile, for all of the discourse in Boston, as we mentioned, OKC did give us the bounce back, the zigzag, or simply the favorite doing its job and winning a game. In this case, they win and cover big, tied an NBA playoff record for points in any half with 87 in the first half.
They almost scored more points in the first half than both New York and Boston for the entire game.
Insanity.
We should really quick before we move on. That is the other part about what we've seen in that series. The first game I went over for our contest, got there barely because of overtime. This game, nowhere close to going over the total. Part of it is because of the shooting, but it is incredible to see how slow the series has been between Boston and New York and how dead these unders have, like just dead nuts under for both games.
What I was going to say, though, and I'm mad at myself that we didn't have this as a best bet at the end of the show because we brought it up multiple times and we talked about it with our guests, was that the first half angle and the early angle for both of these games made a ton of sense that, hey, these are teams that are big favorites of the better team. They're going to come out guns a-blazing. Both Boston and OKC did that. But the full game, obviously, at risk with the Celtics. OKC finishes the job. But that first half angle has been profitable throughout. And it's a number that OKC has covered in both of their games. And Boston got out to that early lead as well.
Yep. I mean, it's funny because I'm just kind of kicking myself. But this postseason, it is as easy as it has looked almost sometimes. Where it's just like these obvious spots, these bounce backs, whatever it is. Just bet into them. Like, you're going to be fine. And the bounce backs worked, or at least one of the teams. But we should also know, too, I mean, the road team, again, at least it looked like there was going to be more road dominance yesterday after New York comes back and does what it did. But still, now 26, 22, and 1 road teams in this postseason against the spread.
SGA also was awesome. 34 points, 11 of 13 shooting, 9 of those makes uncontested. Talk about those again. Perfect from the foul line, 11 of 11, playing just 30 minutes. Had a plus 51 plus minus, best we've ever seen since they started tracking that stat. 4 straight 30-plus point games now for him. Okay.
How about that, though?
What?
Point total prop, 33.5.
It always we'll get it to my saves prop, by the way, coming up here in a minute as well.
Oh, that's right.
Another
one.
Can't win a goalie saves prop to save my life. Brutal beats on those. That said, we got to take our first time out of the day. We're just getting started here on Money Moves. When we return, can the Warriors survive their round 2 series without Steph Curry? Plus, for the Maple Leafs up 2-0, is this team actually different in 2025?
I believe.
Or might the defending Cup champs still be worth a wager? We'll get into it.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Okay, thanks everyone for bearing with the audio issues in the first segment. Stormy, Buonantony, JVT with you back here on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We didn't know anything was wrong really at the beginning. We got a bunch of tweets from everybody, some texts.
I'm really surprised that there was no, thank God his mic's not working.
No, it was all positive.
Yeah,
I really wish we heard what JVT was saying the first 10 minutes.
It wasn't really worth that much, but yes, it was. If it sounded like I didn't listen to Stormy either, I mean, there was a moment
we
where
we were both a little distracted there for a moment.
It's all right, we're back.
We had a legit, though, like NASCAR pit crew change that happened midway through the segment where our lovely producer, Brian Ortega, who is back from the Kentucky Derby finally. I mean, I didn't know that the Derby actually went 10 days, but there we are. He crawled in on his hands and knees to grab the microphone from underneath, switch it up, and do it to where we were asking questions back and forth that no one saw.
Here's the thing. So I will say this is a little behind the scenes kind of deal, which I do find is funny. And I think it speaks to the level of talent we work with here at the desk, which is, I think a lot of our crew behind the glass is used to working with froofy talent that can't really do that much on their own. Ortega could totally just texted me and been like, hey, grab that mic underneath you and switch it out. But instead, because, I think the vast majority of our talents are very big egos and can't really understand how to work things, he just took it upon himself to come in here. But I could have done it. You could trust me. There was one point, too, where very long ago, I just switched out an XLR cord at the old South Point studio, and a old talent who no longer works here looked at me like I had 6 heads. Like, wow, you can do everything, huh? I'm like, yeah, I can plug cords in. It's
impressive.
It's a hard of a concept, but thank you. I appreciate it, guys. Ortega, you should have rubbed my feet while you were out here, too. I would have appreciated it.
Down but not out.
That's right.
Just like potentially Steph Curry. He's going to be out coming up tonight in this Warriors Timberwolves game,
you see the report about
too.
him? Apparently he cried in the locker room After when he got hurt, he knew. Like, yeah,
it was bad.
It was a bad injury. Yeah.
Interesting. So as far as the reports right now, he's going to be out at least a week. And we discussed this yesterday. Out a week doesn't mean, okay, he's automatically going to be back after 7 days. Mm-hmm. That means he's going to get reevaluated at that time and see what might ultimately work for him. But I think that's significant that he had that moment. We talked about Steve Kerr and Draymond Green and these guys on the podium using words like crushed, and that's a tough loss, talking specifically about Curry and the impact that he has as their star player of the Golden State Warriors, all of the history that he has. They still did end up winning that game despite him only being able to give 13 minutes. They were a 6-point road dog in that one. They get the job done, but can they do it again? At least the odds as of now tell us no. Minnesota laying 10.5, but we've seen that before.
Right. I would assume no. Like, again, I would assume that this is a game in which I don't know if it plays out to the degree in which we saw Oklahoma City and Denver play out, because I do still think the talent discrepancy between OKC and Denver is absolutely vast. This is not really the case for Golden State and Minnesota. I do think Minnesota is the clearly better team, and I do think that they are a team that was capable of ending this series relatively quickly at Golden State's full strength. So without Golden State's best player on the floor, that still would track here. But to give Golden State some credit, they still do have one of the best defensive players in the league on the floor in Draymond Green. They still have two very good veterans in both Green and Jimmy Butler. They have a very good coach in Steve Kerr. And you saw some of that, the way that they were playing defensively, the way Draymond was playing defensively in that last game. You know, I mentioned to you when we were talking about the recap yesterday about the fact that Golden State had allowed the Minnesota Timberwolves to take 32 shots within 4 feet of the basket, which is a very high number, and yet they shot only 53%, in large part because of the way Draymond Green was playing and helping on drives and doing what he was doing, contesting shots in the restricted area. I don't think you're going to be able to defend them at that level again. We should obviously note that Minnesota is not shooting the ball particularly well. One would assume that course corrects. But the one thing that Minnesota doesn't have going for it, unlike Boston, I keep making this case that Boston, on a very high volume of wide open three-point attempts, the shots aren't just going down, just stay the course, you'll be fine. Minnesota, not the case. They are only shooting about 30% on wide open threes, Stormy, but it's nowhere near the volume that Boston is shooting. So in other words, they're not generating that many wide open looks because of the way that Golden State's been playing. So all of that being said, one would assume that there was just some sort of course correction and that Minnesota is able to win this game. Covering 10.5, though, I think that is a different question to be asked, only because of the level of play that your opponent can get to when you're talking about how they defend.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking, is the good defense they play. Draymond also being able to contribute offensively, I think, was significant.
I mean, that was insane, too. He hit 4 of his first 5 3-point attempts.
18 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists for him. Also, how good a week is Buddy Hield having? Can he continue to deliver? Although, now that there's not the Steph Curry threat factor, more of that defense obviously moving his direction, so potentially not. I was wondering from a prop perspective, I think Jimmy Butler's probably going to be pretty popular today. His points prop, 24.5, rebounds 7.5, assists 6.5, PRA, points, rebounds, and assists together, 38.5. Do you think that would be worth a look, or do you just want to kind of stay away from the pop markets tonight?
No, I mean, I think one of the guys that I thought was going to be pretty interesting was what's the role of Brandon Podziemski going to be for Golden State? He obviously starts the game. He starts this last game. We know that Gary Payton's been kind of in and out of the starting lineup, and he's been sick, so maybe he missed that last game. So, missed the last game, the game prior against Houston, and there's been times where Podziemski's been starting and he hasn't. But I think that without Steph Curry out there, and you just need another shooting presence, I do wonder if Podziemski is going to have a larger role. In 29 minutes, he actually took 5 attempts from beyond the arc. He's a better shooter than what he did. He actually hit it 1 of 5. Initially, I think the thought is going to be, from a player prop standpoint, load up on Buddy Hield, because that's like the other guy. That's like Steph Light, right? Hey, Mom, can we go to McDonald's? No, we have McDonald's at home. Let's Buddy Hield. And so I think that maybe you can get to the path where you're like, I'm going to Buddy Hield overs. But I think that's all factored into the market to a really certain extent. Podziemski, I'm going to be curious, because there is really no other shooting presence for them. And I think Podziemski could have a pretty, at least in terms of volume, pretty big day, unless you can get him over some of these numbers.
And real quickly, just to go back, because you did mention the Timberwolves shooting issues, 0 of 15 from 3 in the first half last game, 12 of 76 on threes overall the last 2 games, so just 15%. Worst percentage over a 2-game span in the playoffs in NBA postseason history. So you do have to imagine that that's going to get a little bit back on track, especially considering Anthony Edwards was a big part of that. the way that he played in the first half of that game. He was able to rebound in the second half with 22 of his 23 points. So we'll see what kind of day he has, especially after being called out on the podium by his head coach and Chris Finch. What type of motivation do they have in the bounce back role for game 2?
Are they inspired as well that there is now white smoke and we have a new pope? How about that?
Did that happen?
Yeah, a couple minutes ago. Just happened. How about that? Not my pope, though. I'm only first ballot guy. All right. And he, come on now. Not my pope. I only like my guys who make first ballots.
I'm going to be straight up with you. I'm going to Italy in a couple weeks, and I was very nervous about. It's already a Jubilee year with how busy it's going to be. And then you're going to have. What does that mean? It's a long story, but it's like an Italian. Like everybody that has Italian roots.
Forgiveness and reconciliation is celebrated 25 years
to the country over the course of the year to celebrate. And there's it's already such a busy place tourism-wise.
Are you going for the Jubilee year?
No, I wanted to go to Italy for the last 5 years, and then something always has come up that made it not be able to happen. And so this year I was determined that it was happening. And then everything happens with the Pope, and I was worried that how long can the conclave go on and all of this stuff. So not going to have to worry about it. Last couple minutes here. Let's get back.
What we're learning is the Pope's death really inconvenienced you.
I hate you so much right now, especially as somebody who was a Catholic for a time in my life. My parents made me study a lot of religions in my youth. I don't know what I am anymore. Anyways, back to the ice now. Let's shift gears here. How about those Leafs? Back and forth game yesterday.
My guys.
They get it done. Short home dog. They end up finishing the job 4-3. Take a 2-0 series lead against the Panthers. Both games going well over that 5.5 goal total. All those questions about Joseph Wall and net with Stolarz unavailable. He ends up coming through. But now you have to go to Florida and listen to this adjusted number on the Panthers. Minus 238 coming up for game 3.
So are we sure that Stolarz is out for this game?
For the coming up one, not confirmed
right?
Yet. No.
So, I don't know, man. That seems pretty extreme. Now, we always do this in basketball, right? Which is team down 2-0, going back home type of deal. The desperation angle. That seems to very much be the case here, doesn't it? Florida has lost 2 straight on the road. Now you come back home, pure and utter desperation. Does that mean you're more likely to win that game? That price seems really high for a team that has actually had some trouble with this Toronto Maple Leafs offense. This Maple Leafs offense look great. And even yesterday, where it looks like, okay, this is one where they're going to give it up. They're down multiple times. They come, not storming back, but they come back, tie a game, take a lead, gets tied, take a lead again. The Maple Leafs seem like a really resilient bunch. And like you and I had discussed many times, these top lines on paper looked very even with Florida. I'm really surprised by that price to an extent. I get it because the market thinks the team is desperate, but that's crazy. What we watched in the first 2 games. I didn't see anything on paper or with my eyes that made me think Toronto couldn't keep it up.
We'll talk more NHL a little bit later on. Also do want to just say, considering Dallas peppered 10 shots in the first 10 minutes of the game yesterday against the Winnipeg Jets, and Connor Hellebuck stopped all of them, I thought we were going to be so clear and in the money, feeling good about that saves prop over 22.5. They have 14 the rest of the way and doesn't get there. Classic. If you do go to vsin.com today, by the way, our good guy Jonathan Davis, NHL betting expert, is going to have his best picks for the NHL postseason tonight. Also, our newbie Dan Karpuk with NBA prop bets. Zach Cohen's got his breakdown. Everything you need right now up at the website, vsin.com. And if you come join us right now, we're giving you that extra 2 months, 14 months of our VSiN Pro subscription for just $199 when you use the promo code PRO, vsin.com/subscribe. Check it out. Back to the NBA with Terrell Furman of Betting Pros next.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We mentioned it already, but white smoke at St. Peter's Basilica. A new pope has been decided. You're laughing, but I wanted to bring this up.
What else make white smoke?
Real quickly. Ian McMillan, who we've had on the show a handful of times, made this joke that I just saw on Twitter. It took less time for a new pope to be selected than Shedeur Sanders.
That's right.
Wow. Love to see it. On that note, we got to get back to the NBA postseason talk because this round 2 has been nothing but chaos. We finally had one of those big favorites actually complete the job yesterday in the OKC Thunder. To help us break it all down, excited to welcome in our good friend, Terrell Furman, Betting Pros, betting analyst, the Fast Break Bets podcast. You can follow him on X at @ReallyRel_. And Terrell, how have you been doing betting this postseason? Because I feel like everything that's obvious and everything that makes sense doesn't seem to want to occur.
Well, first, I would like to say that rest in peace, Pope Francis, but he did go last month. Shedeur Sanders waited a couple of days. Yeah. So Shedeur, I don't know if the timeline is the same there, but Shedeur Sanders waited a couple of days there for that draft pick. I think it's interesting because it makes sense. It makes sense when you look at the teams. You have Jokic on one team. You have the Boston Celtics, who over the course of the entire seasons dropped plenty of games that they were not supposed to lose at all. And you look at the three teams that have taken L's, the Boston Celtics, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. All three of those teams have not proven themselves over the course of the season in close games. All three of those teams were blowing out their opponents by double digits nearly every single night. And so all three of those teams get into close games in those first games, Boston in the second game too. And then you look at it and you're like, wow, this team actually has no idea what to do in crunch time. So I think that's the thing. All three of those teams were so good in the regular season that it was to their detriment that they didn't have the practice to sit there and play a bunch of crunch time games because they just weren't in that situation.
So I understand, Terrell, that you are a Knicks fan. So we'll start there. How do you feel knowing that this will be a 2-2 series when we get back to Boston?
I mean, that's what everybody told me. They told me that in game one, that this was 1-0 Boston in game one, and then the Knicks won game one. And in game two, how do you feel that it's going to be a 1-1 series going back to New York? And next thing we know, I'm looking at 2-0 Knicks. So, I mean, I feel the same way that I felt before you asked me. Okay, Boston's going to win. You told me Boston was going to win game one. You told me Boston was going to win game two. And so, all right, Boston's going to win game three. Hopefully that trend keeps going for me. I would enjoy it, but, I could understand. Now, do I think Boston is the better team? Absolutely, of course. And I wouldn't be surprised if Boston was able to go and get a win in game three. But I would like to remind everybody what happened in that Miami Heat series where they dropped the 2 games at home and they just were out of rhythm and out of sync the entire time and never really could get it back together. And meanwhile, this New York Knicks team hasn't played good basketball at all in the first 2 games and somehow have a 2-game lead over them. So, I mean, you can take your chances with Boston and you can sit there and say, hey, they're minus 120 to win the series now. We might as well sprinkle on that. That's the best number we're going to get. But the margin for error now is so slim. And then if the Knicks win game 3, oh, man, I don't even know what to tell you. But it's been comical. It's been comical because, honestly, this is just me being proven right about everything I've said about Boston for the past 5 years. And this team is something missing. There's a dark cloud over them, and they finally got that championship, and everybody thought the dark cloud was gone. And then look at the New York Knicks just sitting here being pesky. They'll never take this 2-0 moment away from me. Nobody will take this 2-0 moment. They could lose the next 4 games, and I wouldn't care because at one point we were still up 2-0 on the reigning champions. So I'm perfectly fine, good. But again, everybody tells me Boston's going to win game 3. Like everybody has said, they're really, really going to win game 3 this time, and they still haven't won a game.
And the spread is Celtics laying 5 at MSG, total 204.5, as we have Terrell Furman, Betting Pros analyst, joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line for Money Moves. How about the OKC Thunder? Did they prove now that officially they are the best team in the NBA and likely candidate? I mean,
they won a game.
The title. punishing.
So,
fashion.
I mean, they won a game. And it's more than a couple of other teams that say they're the best teams. They won a game. And so, yeah, I think OKC did what they were supposed to do. And OKC proved like, hey, we don't have to be in these one-score games because we're able to go out there and beat you by 40-plus points and not even have you in the game. And honestly, it might have been a little bit of Scott Foster as well. Scott Foster comes back for his first time in a long time with a calf injury. He was out. He was on the IR. And then Jokic just mysteriously gets 6 fouls in 3 quarters. So I think that, they had a lot going for him in this game, and they did what they were supposed to do. They went and they got a win on the road. I mean, at home here. Now they have to go on the road and prove that, hey, we can steal home court back. And I think they can do it. Like, I just think the OKC team is a little bit deeper, better defensively, and they're going to give Denver a lot of problems. I didn't have Denver pegged to be this moment. And to be honest, I probably was really wrong looking at the Clippers. And you know how we talked about the Clippers when I were in Vegas and I went and made a complete 180. Well, guess what? It's now a 360. The Clippers are horrible. And I just think that both of those 2 teams were bad matchups for OKC. So I'm sticking with OKC here. I think they're going to be able to get it done.
All right, I know we have a game tonight, but since we're talking about all the other series really quickly, Cleveland 2.5 with a total of 229.5 tomorrow on the road against Indiana. No real clarity on the 3 injured players. How do we handle this?
I can't do anything until you tell me what's going on with those guys. Like I will say this. I don't think Cleveland is out of it because unlike the other two teams that dropped the early game at home, especially the Boston Celtics who dropped the first two games at home, unlike Boston, Cleveland actually had a bunch of injuries, and the Indiana in 6 games this season has never played Cleveland's lineup of DeAndre Hunter, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell, and Jared Allen. Until they play that lineup, until they can prove to me they can beat that lineup where Garland is running the offense, and you have Hunter and Mobley who are such havoc defensively, I believe that the Cavs are still in this. And I'm interested to see what this Pacers team looks like when they play the Cavs full strength. So I can't do nothing like with this game until I figure out if those 3 guys are playing.
As of now, Cavs laying 2 in that game coming up tomorrow, plus 170 available in the series price against the Pacers to come back. Now, let's look to tonight. Golden State going to be without their star in Steph Curry. They're a 10.5-point dog taking on the Timberwolves, who have had some shooting issues the last couple of games. Do they get back on track? And at this number, is that something that they can cover in a bounce back?
I mean, they potentially could get back on track, but I don't think it's going to be a lot of points scored if they do or if they don't. Like, I think this is an under type of game, under 201.5 here for me. 201 is going down in some shops. And it's just both of these two teams are comfortable playing in a very, very slow pace. I think that the Timberwolves are going to try to limit the turnovers, try to get more consistent offense out of Mike Conley, where they're running out a lot of half-court sets, getting Anthony Edwards some really good looks at the basket. But this Golden State defense is really, really, really good. This is on another level than anything Minnesota's played up to this point. And so now I'm looking at Golden State and I'm like, where are you going to get your offense? Jimmy Butler may be able to do something, but they're going to key in on Jimmy. So we'll see. Who's going to be able to step up? Is Buddy Hield going to be able to have another big game? Well, he's been inconsistent, so I don't know. Jonathan Kuminga is in the doghouse, apparently. I don't know what's going on with him. We'll see what Moses Moody can do. But if Moses Moody has a good game, then I guess that means the Warriors are going to lose pretty badly because he got a lot of garbage time. So I'm very, very interested to see who's going to do the scoring. I think this is a neither team gets to 100 type of game again.
All right, what about from a player prop standpoint? Do we expect any certain player to stick out? I pointed to Podziemski to have a bigger role today. What do you think?
Not necessarily looking for an over, but give me an under on Draymond Green, under on 17.5 points and rebounds, under on 22.5 points, rebounds, and assists. He's been horrible to these numbers with Steph Curry out of the lineup. In his last 12 games, he's gone under 9 times without Steph Curry in the lineup. And, I mean, it makes sense. Steph commands a lot of attention. It frees up Draymond for easy looks around the basket. It also helps Draymond with the assists, getting the ball to Steph Curry, playing 2-man with Steph Curry, able to rack a couple of assists there. And then you have the Rudy Goberts, the Julius Randles, the Naz Reid, all the bigs over there, giving him problems on the glass. So I think Draymond's going to revert back. He's had a couple good games in a row. I think this is a bad game. Give me under 22.5 for Draymond Green.
Hey, 30 seconds worth noting because we have you. I know you're deep in the WNBA as well, and the preseason officially underway. The Liberty are favored to repeat. Was there anything as far as championship odds you liked early?
Yeah, it's easy. Aces plus 350. Like, that's pretty much as safe as a bet as I feel like. Normally, the WNBA championship goes very chalk. Yes, you probably could have got some very good odds on Minnesota last year, but they lost. So you had a nice ticket, but it ended up losing in the end. And the Liberty got the title. The Liberty should not be favorite. Like, they are missing Benajelani Hamilton, who is their best defender. She's going to be missing the entirety of the season. They have Breanna Stewart, who just came off of off-season surgery. They had Sabrina Ionescu come off of off-season surgery. They have Liana Fibic, who is still overseas filling out her contract. Like, I just don't think this team is going to be as good as they were in years prior. And when they get to the playoffs, maybe they get Benajelani Hamilton back, but I don't know what she's going to look like. Whereas this Aces team is going to have that cohesion throughout the entire year. I think this is a revenge year for them. They have the best roster and the best player. Honestly, I think the best duo in Jewel Lloyd and in Asia Wilson. So I think they're going to be able to get it done here. It's really, really simple here for me. Just take the Aces at plus 350.
Great stuff as always, buddy. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, always. See y'all.
Terrell Furman, everybody. Make sure you check out the work over at Betting Pros, the Fast Break Bets podcast. Follow him on X at @ReallyRel_. When we come back, we're going to talk some Major League Baseball coming up next. Some key injuries involving pitchers yesterday to discuss. Shortened MLB card, including a few games that will get underway while we're on the air today. Don't miss it. Stick around. More Money Moves after this.
You're watching watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Okay, so hell of a last 10 minutes. We found out that we have a new pope. The white smoke has come through. Then Jadeveon Clowney has been released by the Carolina Panthers. Got an update on Anthony Stolarz for the Toronto Maple Leafs that he apparently is not traveling to Florida. So while he's not been officially diagnosed with a concussion, notable there that is the case. And then just moments ago, Bob Nightingale, USA Today, among a handful of Major League Baseball writers, said that the Pirates have officially fired their manager, Derek Shelton, this morning. Boom.
The same time that we have a new pope, huh? Coincidence?
Good time for a news drop, I would say.
Maybe he's got a new job.
What are you doing right
What are you doing? What? Maybe he's got a new job. Look, I feel like this really isn't going to make that much of a difference. He was 306, 440 in his time there, and four last place finishes, whatever. The franchise, as we discussed yesterday, stinks. To be fired,
bad vibes. Is that what we've been saying?
Yeah, but I mean, it's to be fired, it's because you have not met expectations. What is this franchise's expectations? And not only that, but this is what gets me about a firing like this. What about your alleged expectations were not met to such a degree that in May you have decided, this is the time we got to fire this guy? You know what I'm saying? You knew what this was coming into it, but what about the last 38 games where you you know what? This is it. We're done. If you were going to fire him this early into the season, why not just fire him in the offseason? It's the Pirates. Yeah. They stink. They're a franchise that has been an absolute mess. So we'll see what happens. Don Kelly, their bench coach, has been named the interim manager. So yay, congrats. I don't know. I mean, it's not really going to make that big of a difference. I think it's just more noise from a Pirates franchise and organization that is in absolutely disarray and has no idea what it's doing.
12-26 on the year in the midst of a 7-game losing streak. They've dropped 10 of their last 11. And as you said, yes, it'll be Don Kelly who is taking over as of now. Also, a lot of injuries just to make people aware of. MLB.com this morning, I go to their front page. Ace injuries. Cease, Green, Bryant, Real Muto, Jordan, Arenado. And let's start with, I guess, Dylan Cease and Hunter Greene, because Cease was dominant yesterday against the Yankees, too, through 59 of 89 pitches for strikes, including striking out Judge, all 3 of those head-to-heads, 9 strikeouts on the day. Had to leave in the 7th inning with a right forearm cramp, and they're saying it was precautionary post-game tests. Padres end up losing that game 4-3 in extras. And then for the Reds, Green, right groin injury on a warm-up pitch going into the 4th cost him. And 2 very, very notable big injuries for guys who've been playing great.
Yes, very, very much so. So for Cease, obviously, with that start, as we discussed, excuse me, where he had not been pitching particularly well, but at the very least, you saw signs in the underlying metrics.
The expected numbers.
Expected numbers that maybe he was going to start to turn those things around. We saw a little bit of that, and obviously making Aaron Judge look the way that he did, so that stinks. You also never like to hear the word forearm when it comes to pitcher injuries. A lot of the times, forearm leads to elbow, elbow leads to Tommy John. So hopefully it's just a cramp and that they're fine, but that's never really the good sign when you hear forearm injury, whatever it is. So you hope that's going to be fine and work itself out. For Green, too, I mean, one of the things we had discussed was his issues with home runs. That didn't pop up yesterday. But he's in the midst of a National League Cy Young race because of the way that he has been pitching. And so that's going to be massive if he ends up missing an extended amount of time in what right now looks to be a very crowded NL Cy Young race. That's going to be very, very interesting because if you remember last week, I had Michael King at 22-1 in the National League Cy Young race. Thought that he had some really good numbers and that this was going to be something where he could be very competitive. And so if you're looking to get involved in this race, there right now at least is one guy who is a little hampered by injury, and maybe the field shortens by 1 potentially, given how well some of these guys are pitching. We also just don't know how long he's going to be out, if he's going to be out at all, and that's going to be one of the big ones.
Let's look to the card today. We have a couple games that are going to get underway here in the next 45 minutes or less. Orioles, Twins, Rangers, and Red Sox. Anything in either one of those games that stood out to you?
Yes, I did bet the Rangers first 5 today. Okay. It is a fade of Bello, who is, I think, due for a whooping at some point here. 17 2/3 and 3 starts for Bello. 2.55 ERA on the surface looks great, but you know where we go with this kind of stuff. The expected numbers underneath for Bello are not great. A fielding independent over 5 at 5.47. Even his expected ERA is ballooning northward of 5.5 as well. I think that he has been getting away with it in his first few starts. And if we're going to start to believe here to an extent, at least the somewhat improvements of this Texas Rangers lineup that we've seen over the last 3 games, especially since firing their hitting coach, that's going to be something that I think he is maybe due against a lineup like this to get knocked around a bit. You look at some of the underlying metrics to paint the picture as to why this is a guy that has some fraudulence to it. His chase rate, he's not getting guys to swing and miss. Whiff rate, 32nd percentile. Chase rate, 8th percentile. Not striking guys out at all. Floating around 15% there. Walk rate is below average. Hard hit numbers are below average. But if you look at it, batting average on balls in play against him, 224 through 3 starts. So if those start to find their way, then I think you're really going to start to see Bello fade here a little bit. Okay. And I'll test that theory today with the Rangers. We should also note on the flip side here, Leiter getting a start for the Rangers, 4.58 ERA, 4.05 FIP is fine. This is more about what we're looking at for Bello, and I think that he could get knocked around by this Rangers. So plus 120, first 5 money line for me.
They are plus 130 for the game. Bello and the Red Sox minus 155 for the full game. Run total 9. And then Orioles Twins, Bailey Ober on the hill for them, minus 166 favorites in Minnesota. Run total against Dean Kramer and the Orioles, who have really struggled this season, sitting at 8.5. I didn't have anything in this game. There are a few games that I did bet, but did you see anything that stood out in this one?
What's funny is, like, my initial thought last night was like, yeah, I think the Twins might be worth looking at here. Like, the Orioles have not been hitting. If you look at what you've seen so far from Ober, he's been great. And then you see the price open up, excuse me, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to get priced out of this here pretty quickly. So I think there's an argument to be made that maybe like the market's just a little too low on Baltimore. I know Kremer has not been very good. Ober's been solid. This Orioles lineup has been pretty poor. But this was a very surprising price for me, at least. I didn't think it was going to reach minus 165, which is pretty high.
The Rockies have a doubleheader today hosting the Tigers. Game 1 at 3:10 Eastern. Casey Mize against Kyle Freeland. Game 2, Tanner Gordon for Colorado. Detroit undecided there. I think the Rockies are probably live to lose both. And you look at the price for what is the worst offense in baseball, continuing to get faded here, minus 185 for the second game without the Tigers pitcher decided because of Tanner Gordon. And then minus 170 Detroit is in the first game. But if you pair those together, you're getting around plus 145 if you want to parlay fade the Rockies today.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's the way to go. I mean, do you want to bet the Rockies? There's really nothing that has given you any. Like, this is always the problem, too. It's not the problem. I give guys like Adam Burke a lot of credit for grinding through baseball season because, in theory, there's probably some value in actually betting on the Rockies. Like, the probability of winning every game is probably higher than what the market is giving it. But you still, when you bet them, if you're jumping on that inherent value, you're still asking the Rockies to win that game. And like, you can sit there and say, I've got all the value in the world. You still need Colorado to win something. And that is absolutely brutal. So I think maybe these prices are a little high on Colorado, but this team continues to just fade the way it is. There's no way that I'm jumping in on this at any point, unless the price gets a little crazy.
I did the parlay. So just full disclosure, yes. I did the fade the Rockies parlay today. This team is so bad. And I'm also looking at another team that's struggling offensively today to fade. I bet the Phillies pretty early this morning, and that one has gone out from minus 130 to now, where are we at? I bet at minus 148, and it continued to go. Where is this on my odds board right now?
Right now, I'm looking at, we got it right here, minus 155.
Minus 155. So so it keeps going. Looking at the Rays hitting numbers against left-handed pitchers, and today we've got Jesus Luzardo against Ryan Pepio, hitting 182, striking out 26% of the time against left-handed pitching. They have also been shut out their last 4 games against a lefty, including yesterday. Sure. So just rolling with the Phillies from that standpoint. I think an F5 could be a good angle as well.
I mean, look, Pepio hasn't really been great. To your point, 5.15 fielding independent. The expected is over 4, just right in line with where he's at right now. Not pitching at a particularly high level. So
Meanwhile,
I'm not going to say no.
Meanwhile, Luzardo, sub-2 ERA, sub-2 FIP. So a lot of things I feel like we're showing up for them. Anything else on the card that you like today?
No, that was it. Rangers first 5 against the Boston Red Sox. And then, I mean, we talk about how bad some of these teams are. We'll see if Davis Martin for the White Sox is due to get knocked around. He's got some differences in his numbers that through 7 appearances, 6 starts, he maybe isn't pitching as well as even his 352 would indicate, and some FIP numbers over 4.5. His expected ERA is nearly 6, so maybe he can get absolutely blasted today.
Yoshinobu Yamamoto looking to sustain his 0.90 ERA today.
Need that guy to get knocked around. I got King now to win this National League. Come on, let's go.
Remember, everybody, so we broadcast each and every day here from Circa Resort and Casino, and they have an awesome summer hotel package coming up available for you this summer between May 26th and September 4th. A $400 all-in ultimate giveaway package. So that means none of those resorts fees or taxes are going to be tacked onto this. $400 flat. You get a 2-day stay at Circa, $100 dining credit, $100 beverage credit, and your very own daybed out at Stadium Swim. Sweat the games, place your bets, have a blast here at Circa. CircaLasVegas.com is where you can get more information. And come head out, come visit us. We're obviously right here on the second floor. We'll be right back on Money Moves.